Hello, and welcome back to the War of Ideas podcast. This is Cody Symbol, and today I want to talk about advertising, or rather, how we receive advertising, how we are unconsciously being driven towards addiction so that we view more ads. This is mainly going to be centered around Tristan Harris's idea of what companies like Facebook, Snapchat, and Twitter are doing to us. Tristan Harris is a former design ethicist at Google. I mentioned his name in one of my previous podcasts, just as an aside, that I am very interested in the work that he's doing. And today I'm finally devoting a full episode to what I think is already extremely important and will continue to increase in importance for the foreseeable future. Tristan Harris is interested in giving us better lives, finding ways to stop people's addiction with their social media. Let's try and explain what I mean by addiction to social media. And most of you already know, you can kind of see the obvious pitfalls of spending 10 hours on your phone every day. You don't want to do it. If somebody asked you right now, would you rather spend 10 hours on your phone or get work done for 3 hours, take a walk in the park for 2 hours, spend time with your friends and family for the other 5 hours? You would say, of course I'd rather do that than spend time on my phone. But we don't always do what's best for us. So if we know the problem of addiction and we can't stop ourselves, well, what am I going to be adding to the conversation here today that you might not already know? These things are addicting for a reason. There are methods put in place and continuing to be put in place to try to keep you on Facebook and Snapchat and others as much as possible. And they do it on purpose because they make more money when you view more ads. And you can say these people are responsible for themselves, for falling into an addiction and getting out of it, except they're being coerced into these addictions without even knowing it. And it needs to stop. Stopping the coercion is the least these companies can do. If they're the ones that get you sucked into the addiction, they should hold some responsibility for getting you out of it. And they don't just try to keep you on the page longer, they literally change the way you think so that your goals are aligned with their goals. Social media rewards outrage and fake news and echo chambers just because those things are very good at getting our attention. Instagram and Facebook train you to replace your self-worth with a race for who can get the most likes on their pictures. And it gives you the FOMO, fear of missing out. And the more you fear missing out, the more you're going to want to stay up to date on Instagram and Facebook with all your friends' experiences. This doesn't only involve free apps, but a majority of them are free. The cost of using the app is outsourced from your wallet to your eyeballs. And by eyeballs, I mean your attention. Your attention is worth a lot of money because advertisers know if they have your attention, they have increased the odds that you will use your wallet and buy what they're trying to sell you. So ads aren't the problem because it's easier for people to not take out their wallet than it is to be addicted to your news feed and to be addicted to Snapchat. When you see an advertisement for a car on TV, you think it's a 30-second or a 1-minute sales pitch, and then you can forget about it. And we're so used to it, we're not really fazed by it. And yeah, they can be annoying, but they aren't a threat to our valuable time like Facebook, Twitter, and Snapchat are. It's one thing to blatantly shove ads in people's faces, but it's another to covertly abuse the almost involuntary part of our mind so that we view as many ads as possible. They're sort of hijacking our attention. It's a lot easier to get somebody's attention than it is to make them spend money. And a lot of people don't realize that their attention is being sapped. They realize when they're losing money, but it's a lot more difficult to realize when your attention is being taken away. There's now competition between Google, Facebook, Snapchat for our attention, and there's not an infinite amount of attention in the world. People can only look at their phones for so long until they pass out and go to sleep. So the better these companies get at machine learning and developing the perfect AI, the better they get at capturing your attention. So every day, it's going to seem like it gets harder and harder to look away from Facebook, to look away from Instagram. And that's because it is. It's going to be harder and harder to have the will to go to work every day because you'd rather be giving your attention to an app on your phone. And every company is trying to get better and better at doing it. So it's suffice to say that this is not good, because while our money exists to be spent on the things we want, our attention is very similar, but it's a lot easier to manipulate. Facebook doesn't care if you buy the product from the ad or not. They just need you to see it, and they make money. And the more ads you see, the more money they make. And what most people don't know is how companies like Facebook and Snapchat use algorithms and machine learning and AI to set up their page specifically to keep you on it as long as possible. They show you posts from people they think you're most interested in out of all your friends on Facebook. You and I both know, out of the, let's say, 1,000 friends you have added on Facebook, you really only care about less than 10% of them. And Facebook knows that. And they know who it is based on how many times you looked at their profile or stopped at their post in the newsfeed and liked or commented on it. Here's an example Tristan Harris has mentioned before. Let's say you upload a new profile picture and the likes start rolling in. They'll show your friends your new profile picture at different times. Sometimes they'll show it to your friends for the first time days after you've already uploaded it. So after the initial bout of likes you receive, you'll get notifications a day or two later or 3 days later that someone else has liked your post. And it'll get you back on Facebook. We care about what people think. So these likes really matter to us. And some people will stay on Facebook and say things and do things they otherwise wouldn't be bothered to just to get those likes. And another example he made for Snapchat, I'll let you hear it from the man himself.
So we always worry about new technologies when they first appear. You know, when people started bringing out the newspapers on the subway, people were at home on the telephone and calling each other all the time. Now it's tempting to say, well, now the kids these days, they're on Snapchat. And therefore, we survived all those other technology transitions. Nothing really bad happened. So maybe it's all okay. This is just kids being kids in a new way. And I want to talk about why that's not true, and why this is different. What's different is that, let's take that telephone example. In the 1970s, if someone picked up a telephone to go call their friend and they spent time gossiping on the telephone, we could do that, that's fine. But the telephone wasn't updated every day with new manipulative design principles to be better and better at seducing you into calling your friends. So what's different with Snapchat is that there was 1,000 engineers every single day who work on the product to actually find new ways, not just to get you to use it, but to kind of tag you both on the shoulder and try to get you into a reciprocity relationship where you owe someone else a response. In fact, they have a feature in Snapchat called Snap Streaks. And Snap Streaks count the number of days in a row you've sent a message back and forth with someone. So if I have a best friend and we've been chatting every day for 100 days, I see a little fireball and the number 100 next to it. And what that does is they've just created something now I don't want to lose. Because I have a streak going, I've got 100 days, and now if I don't send them a message tomorrow, I'm going to lose the whole thing. And when you're a kid, actually, this has a really big impact on you. I'm not making this up. There's a woman named Emily Weinstein at Harvard who studied the effects of Snapchat and Snap Streaks on kids by accident. It emerged in her interviews. And she found out that kids, when they go on vacation, they have to give their password to up to 5 other friends to actually have them send messages while they're gone on vacation because they're so worried about losing their Snap Streaks. In fact, a lot of kids, they wake up and they see these 30 contacts with different streaks, and they have to just take pictures of floors and ceilings just to kind of get through all these Snap Streaks so they don't lose any of them. So we have to ask, when Snapchat is designing a feature like Snap Streaks, are they doing that because they most want to help kids empower them to live their lives? Or are they doing that because it's really good at getting their attention? And when we're parents and we see kids using it this way, we have to recognize there's something very different going on here. This was not true in the 1970s when we had a neutral telephone that we would choose to use when we wanted to use it. There are now 1,000 people behind our new telephone, which is, say, Snapchat, that's being designed and updated every day to be more compelling at addicting and holding on to people's attention. And it's not good for us. What happened is that the attention economy and this race for attention got more and more competitive. And the more competitive it got to get people's attention on, say, a news website, the more they need to add these design principles, these more manipulative design tactics, as ways of holding on to your attention. And so YouTube goes from being a more neutral, honest tool of just here's a video to, oh, do you want to see these other videos? And oh, do you want to autoplay the next video? And oh, do you want to, here's some notifications. These products start to look and feel more like media that's about maximizing consumption and less like bicycles for our minds. And I think that's such a subtle and important thing to recognize, is that more and more of technology is really not on our team to help us spend our time the way we want to. It's more on the team of maximizing how much time we spend on the screen. Right now, the only way to succeed in the App Store is by proving you're really good at getting people's attention. And so by making attention the currency of success, it forces all of these good-hearted, good-intentioned people who make apps or make media sites to do things that they don't want to do just because they have to get attention. You have meditation apps that have to send you all these notifications and add streaks and do all this gamey stuff just to get you to use it the most, as opposed to having the phone itself recognize that there's parts of your life where meditation might want to be at the top of the list for you because you're defining that. And so that meditation app could win for the right reasons and not for the wrong reasons. We become more and more on the treadmill to the number of likes or feedback we get, basically, from social media, and start tying our own approval, our own self-worth to how much attention we get from other people. I mean, even for me, I notice that, if I post something, it does affect me whether or not I have a lot of likes or few likes. And it's hard to really, if you think about it, and get to the felt sense of my self-worth is completely independent of that. That's a subtle thing to hold. And developmentally, children are more vulnerable to their self-worth being externalized like this. And the problem is that, there's always been as well ways of externalizing our self-worth in terms of how much money we have in our bank account or in terms of how many friends we have. But now the externalization of our self-worth is controlled by a handful of companies whose goals are different than our goals. They're not evil companies. They just have the different goal of maximizing attention. And our goals are not that. But the problem is that their goals become our goals. This is what's actually so dangerous, is that their goals of engaging us the most by having us care about likes become our goals. We actually wake up in the morning as sovereign human beings and we start caring about the number of likes we got as if that's our goal in life. That becomes our goal. And it's as if we've been infected. It's if they've drilled a hole in the back of our head and now they've injected the virus and now we walk around searching for feedback using social media. And they won if that happens. And again, it's not because they're evil, but they're in a different game. They're trying to maximize attention. But we have to ask a much deeper question, which is, what do we want in our lives and what is our self-worth actually tied to? And maybe it's being virtuous or being a good friend or being, caring about what matters or living by our values. There's a whole bunch of things that we could define for ourselves. And I think the less people have defined their own values, the more vulnerable they are to someone else coming in and giving them their values. And to fix that, we're going to need to talk about different kinds of metrics, different ways of measuring success and monetizing success. So instead of making more money the more time we get, we instead make more money the more we've helped you in your life.
Okay, I don't know how feasible that last part is. I wish I could be that optimistic, and I hope he's right. But in order for him to be right, we have to make the change first before the companies are going to make the change. We're the ones that are going to have to reward the companies for helping us. But if they don't see that reward, I don't see them ever attempting to change their model. We have to somehow reward companies for being our parents and taking care of us, making sure we don't fall victim to ourselves with the help of their technology. Anyway, I think the very first step is awareness, listening to something like this, listening to other Tristan Harris talks. It does help directly. This isn't the same as being aware of the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge or even filming yourself doing the Ice Bucket Challenge, because the only thing that helps that is donations. Those Ice Bucket Challenge videos are indirect ways of getting donations, and that's great. But for this problem, awareness itself is already half the battle. If we're aware of our time spent doing things we don't want to do, then we'd be in the same situation as we are with things like addiction to smoking, addiction to heroin, addiction to alcohol, which is still pretty hard for people to quit. But at least we'd recognize the problem. That's the first step. So why does this attention economy work for these companies? Well, it's all about us. It's all about ourselves. Of course, we would rather see ads for products that we're interested in rather than ones we're not interested in. And we want to be shown news articles that have to do with our interests. So how can we possibly blame the companies when we're the ones that enjoy our experience being curated for us, when we're the ones that click it? Well, we don't always do what's best for ourselves. Not only that, we know it isn't what's best for ourselves, and then we do it anyway. For example, eating ice cream and donuts, or watching Netflix instead of going to the gym, or playing a game on your phone instead of reading the book that you wanted to read. We all want to go to the gym instead of watch Netflix, but we also want to watch Netflix. And ultimately, it is up to us. Nobody's stopping us from going to the gym, but these companies do play a role in making the option of watching Netflix or staying on Snapchat while you're laying in bed. They make those options look and feel a lot more comfy. They're able to keep the part of our mind that we hate in a position of power more often. They're an enabler of the part of ourselves that we have a hard time fighting. And briefly getting back to that Tristan Harris clip, he mentions that there are startups that they don't want to get you addicted to their app, but it's the only way they can succeed in an ocean of apps that do get you addicted. How can they possibly be the first ones to make the change if no one's ever going to notice them for making that change? And unless everybody gets on board, the people who take the easy way out and keep abusing that addiction process are going to dominate the market. It's sort of analogous to vegetarians or vegans. I'm sure most vegetarians enjoy the taste of meat, but they choose not to buy it, not to consume it, because they want to send a message. They want less animals to be killed. So, bringing that back to social media addiction, if the clickbait gets bad enough, if the snap streak addiction gets bad enough, if a lot of people, knowing fully well that they'd still enjoy using the app, if they decide to switch to a different app that doesn't use clickbait and doesn't try to keep them on the app every day with things like snap streaks, they could force the company to make a change. Everybody knows when they eat a piece of meat that there was an animal killed to do it. It's kinda hard to hide that fact, but not everybody knows that the engineers behind Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat are all constantly updating it and introducing new ways to addict you. And of course, I'm not equating tricking somebody's mind into staying on an app being as bad as killing animals, but it is the same principle. It's just not enough know that it's happening to us. And once everybody knows the same way that they know that an animal was killed for their hamburger, you'll start to see more vegetarians, the vegetarian equivalent for people who quit apps that are trying to take advantage of us. So, right now, awareness is just the beginning, and we need a lot more of it. If everybody was aware about this, maybe we'd have a chance at convincing these companies to stop. Telling someone that they should just learn to put the phone down is like telling a smoker to quit smoking, telling a heroin addict to quit heroin. These things just don't happen overnight, and they don't happen without help. They can, but a majority of the time, we need to help these people. And there's a lot of programs for heroin and smoking for those addictions, so why not programs for internet addiction? I want to mention clickbait as well, just to give you another angle of where I'm coming from. Clickbait is the Facebook algorithm's less intelligent and uglier friend. A lot of people are wise to it. They see it. It's very obvious. Yet some of them still can't stop themselves from clicking on it. You have media making commercials for their own 30-minute or 1 hour blocks of news shows that are in 3 hours, and they'll have a commercial for it saying, find out what you don't know about the hidden properties of coffee, or these three poor children died in a house fire, all because of a lit candle. See what the mother has to say. Coming up at 11. I mean, stuff like that is just awful to hear. When I hear that, I cringe. These people on TV are literally telling you, hey, there's something really important you need to know, but you should wait 3 hours and watch our show, and then we'll tell you. And even if these are moral people, it's just impossible to not give off that vibe that you are using the deaths of other people, of real deaths. This is not from a movie. You are using the deaths of other people to get people to watch your show and make you money. Like, hey, I know it works, but God, do I really not want to watch news anymore? Like the nightly news. That's just a little rant I have. I know it follows the same system of, well, people want to watch it, so they don't really care. And if we don't do it, they're going to go to some other station, and that station's going to talk about the mother that let her house burn down. So, what else are we going to do? We have to compete with the other stations. One final thing here, if you are more interested in getting yourself off this addiction and you want to make a difference in your own life, you can go to Tristan Harris's website, timewellspent.io. Seriously, the website explains things a lot better than I ever could. Look his name up on YouTube or Google and share it with other people, and you can share this podcast with other people. All right, till next time.